Welcome to The Divide with Mike and Corey, two diehard baseball fans who don't agree on anything. Which side will you choose? This is The Divide.
And welcome everybody to The Divide live on Fox Sports The Gambler, 102.5 Philly, 104.1 Trenton. Special episode of The Divide. We have a very special guest. Mr. Scott Braun is joined us today. Scott, thank you so much for doing this, first of all. It seems like from everything you've been doing lately, and we'll get to your content later, you guys have been extremely busy. So we definitely need to thank you for taking the time out.
Absolutely. Actually works out perfectly to get some time with you guys away from the mornings and the workday and all of that. So happy to be here. And also, is it true that you guys disagree on everything? You don't agree on anything?
Funny you say that, because there's some shows where we'll blast through an hour and we're like, oh man, dude, we just sat there and agreed with each other the entire time. We don't argue. But for the most part, between the Yankees, the Mets, and then Mike over here is a baseball purist.
He calls me that, and I don't agree with that part. Like, that's not true.
Good. This is good. This is good. I see the disagreeing going on. Good. I'm just trying to start the fire. Because I will say this before we get into things is, you know what I hate? Fake debate. I hate when, and I know this happens in TV, especially all the time. Producers sit down and they're like, all right, let's talk about who the best shortstop is. And they'll be like 3 analysts on. They'll be like, you take this person, you take this person, you take, or, they'll say one. They'll go, oh, I'll go with this one because you said that one. And I'm like, no, why? That's dumb. And football, same thing. It's like, all right, who are we going to say is the team to beat right now? And they'll be like, I'll take whatever. What I'll take, I don't like that.
Yeah, it's not organic at all, for sure.
No, that's definitely not our style at all. When we argue for real. The problem is we're friends, so we're of course respectful about it. We're not like Skip on ESPN First Take and all that stuff, but still.
But also, Corey's very delusional. He thinks hockey has like almost the same audience as MLB, and I know you've done both NHL and MLB, right? So Can you please tell my co-host he's incorrect with that statement?
Yeah, you are incorrect. And there are many layers to that. But overall, I mean, MLB, higher revenue sport. What happens with hockey is, first off, they have Canada. They dominate there. But especially if we're talking about the United States, MLB is still over hockey. What hockey has is the diehards too. Like, I don't know the exact stats, but I've spoken to people in the hockey world where they get the same people coming to their games so frequently, but they'll come to like all of their games, if that makes sense. Where you'll get like a one-off, especially, hey, I'm in town, I'm going to go to a Phillies game, I'm going to go to a Yankees game. Not that people don't do that, but I remember even in my world, I grew up in Jersey, Devils fans, like tons of them. And I guess you could call it season ticket holders per se, but the same season ticket holders go to all the games, that kind of thing doesn't happen as much in baseball, but then you kind of reach a wider span of an audience in my mind in baseball. And also internationally, I mean, they've got a pretty strong hold in parts of Asia and of course below us in Mexico and Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, etc., which we're seeing in the World Baseball Classic too.
Absolutely. So, and it's funny you say that, because I've talked to people where they're like, you've never been to a hockey game, like at all. And I grew up in a hockey family. So of course we would go, and as often as we could. The rest of the family's Ranger fans. I grew up a Devils fan because I just wanted to be different. But I feel like more and more I can talk to a grown adult and be like, you've never been to a hockey game, but sure enough, they've been to a few baseball games, whether they were one-offs or I just feel like that's America's childhood, growing up. Every once in a while you go to a ballpark and you do your thing.
So American pastime. Well, also highly recommended. Like, it's a travesty for anyone. I'm saying even internationally. I have a lot of friends in music, and I remember a DJ producer who was in town and said that they ended up having one extra day, and I had Rangers tickets, and I was like, you guys got to go to the Garden to a Rangers game. They had the best time, and I don't think they'd been to any hockey games. So stories like that for sure. I mean, sure, you could say the same thing with baseball, but I don't even care if you don't like hockey or know nothing about it, need to go to at least one game to experience it, because it doesn't convert the same way on TV. You watch it in person and you're like, whoa.
So either way, both sports need to evolve, and I think you're onto something with your new venture. And you want to share that with our audience and what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. So Foul Territory is on live every single day, Monday through Friday to start. And it's during spring training at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We usually go for about 2 hours, and then the times will change a little bit during the regular season. But just teaming up with a lot of my friends. I mean, for me now, I'm in my mid 30s, but I was part of MLB for over a decade. So I basically, like, in my adulthood, grew up into my 30s in the same age as many of the players were that I was hanging around. And so we spoke about content and social and digital and just conversations too, more open and authentic, cursing, which I'm not going to do here, but obviously guys, when they're real talk, like they mix in, an S and F, whatever. And I just think we don't get enough of those conversations right now in baseball for some reason. And we get them much more in football and basketball. So for me, it's like, hey, AJ Pierzynski and Todd Frazier and Adam Jones and Eric Kratz, who's sneaky incredible, which we can get into. And then there will be many more announced later on. Host shows with your friends, bring them on, but let's make sure it's authentic too, right? We're not bringing them on through their publicist and just having them feed us some BS. This has to be real talk about what's going on. Now, some players want to air something out, whether it's about a rule change or just something going on in life. And others are just like, hey, I'm looked at as pretty shy. I give the same cookie cutter answers after games. Just picking up the dub, taking it one game at a time. We all know, we've been through those interviews. Enough of that. For me, it's not even that it doesn't resonate. I just know that it's not true. And almost every person is interesting. And there are storylines, and these are characters that are part of a reality show. And we have 30 of them with all of the teams. So we just want to bring that out more with the players to help us tell the story of what's going on, right? Like something goes on, they say it right away in the clubhouse post game, but it's usually like a snippet. And then let's bring on players that you played with or guys that were in the league and have them ask you the same questions. But for example, AJ Pierzynski is also in the media. So it's not like he's going on just lobbing softball questions at them. Like, this is real, just like what you would see on TV, just like we get from certain analysts or radio or podcast, digital, whatever it is. And then, of course, you're like, what am I doing there? Well, I'm the point guard. So bringing on guests, fan questions, also providing more of that fan broadcaster writer perspective every day to keep these guys in check. And Ken Rosenthal is our senior insider guest who's on multiple times a week, delivering insider news and his notes, breaking down his athletic columns, and then also coming on for breaking news. So the whole deal. So just what I envisioned baseball content should be. And also as simple as, hey, what would I want to listen to on a podcast every day? Or what would I want to watch on YouTube or on social, especially on TikTok too? Guys just say some crazy stuff in MLB. And notice how I said stuff. That was
I was so proud of you. I was like, no, it's
I'm
coming.
like really holding it together right now. I'm really proud of myself. Thank you. But so all of that is what turns into this. And then there are other components too, right? For example, I mean, betting is big in some people's worlds, and I love to bet. I'm excited to bet all year long on baseball, especially, and bet with my friends, which often are former players, and they don't really talk about it. So I'm like, you're allowed to. It's not like there's any rules or laws against it. If you're working for a team or something, of course, but these guys aren't. So it's awesome to be able to get their betting tips too, because we know, like, betting community is so cool, especially on socials, and you follow a lot of like numbers insider or numbers analytics guys. But I'm like, I also just occasionally want to ask one of the catchers, say on our show, hey, how did his stuff look tonight? Because I'm going to play with his K prop and it's at 6.5. And like, I want to get their insight. We're not getting enough of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we are on Fox Sports The Gambler, so we've grown into that, and we realized how much your fan base can grow when you include that in. We won a ton of money on Anthony Rizzo last year, lost a ton of money with Joey Gallo bets.
Oh, I don't want to talk about Gallo. So
what were you putting down? Just home run?
Dude, yeah, we're like
we would go bases, hits, and home runs. Sometimes if we wanted to throw a crazy parlay together, every now and then, because Gallo especially, the odds for him to hit a home run were so high, we were like, it's got to be coming. It's got to be coming.
Like, but also like, so we chased that dragon a little bit. But when you're at the game, you got to do a home run prop. Like I feel like opening day, and you can look it up for the Mets. I was there. I bet that Cano and Lindor would hit a home run, and I won an insane amount of money. I think it was like
Parlayed both home runs. Plus, I think you parlayed the home runs.
Yeah, I parlayed the home runs. I also bet individually, but they all hit. And then I also bet that Lindor would hit 2 home runs. So yeah, I cashed out big time. Like I promise you it's true. So I went to the Mets memorabilia thing, their foundation store, and I got a piece of Citi Field wall. Like that's what I did with my winnings. And
Just
then I
bought a piece of wall.
Yeah, I bought a piece of the wall. And then after they won, I'm on the train and people are asking me where it came from. And I told them like I took it off the wall after we won. So I have it right here, actually.
Yeah, bring it in. But I also want to know, for example, what the odds were for Lindor and Cano on opening day to Dinger. Nice. There you go. Beautiful.
Mike, what were the odds opening day? Do you remember?
What do you think? Like about? Give me like a rough odds. Like, are we?
I want to say Lindor was like plus 260, or like it
for
wasn't
just the one home
for
run.
One home run.
Right.
For 2,
And
it was like
Cano
7.
was probably what plus?
Oh, it was insane. It was like
450?
4 or 5. Yeah.
So then combine them, and you were at plus.
So I didn't combine them. I combined Lindor hitting 2 home runs. I felt as though like they were going to come out. The place was electric. I'm putting these bets in as I'm going up the escalator. So I just felt it. I felt Cano like kind of like I thought it would be like an A-Rod season where he hits 30 home runs. I honestly did. Like after A-Rod's incident, I thought for sure he was going to turn around and just have a 30+ season. So I was big on Cano the first day. It's his only home run the whole season, by the way, which makes it even crazier.
I hope you didn't keep relying on him.
No, God, no. God, no. And like, honestly, like that was my biggest bet of the year. And I told myself like, all right, no more, Mike, no more. Like just play the odds the way you were. And that was when we were partnered with another gambling thing. That was before I was brought to reality by DraftKings and Mr. Sean Brace, our program director. So yeah, I was a little off the rails, but it worked and it was crazy.
So one of the things I'm most excited with Foul Territory was the little teaser video that you guys put out no less than 3 weeks ago, honestly, was your statement of you want some betting knowledge. And I was pumped for that. But the more I dive in, and I want to kind of unpack everything you had said earlier as far as this venture of yours. It's been a little less than 3 weeks that you guys have been uploading and had your show. I'm correct on that, right? I feel like I've been looking.
This is your first full week, right? Because you started.
Yeah, I'm gonna because this is what I do on the show sometimes too. Because I'm not like hardcore numbers analytics guy, but I mean my time at MLB, I definitely was. I would put myself a little more towards numbers than like going completely old school, like the right spot where I think a lot of fans want to be. So anyway, I'm definitely the numbers guy on the show. So yeah, I'll correct you. At least as of right now, we are at, I think it's 8 days into the venture. So you're getting me really fresh, right? I'm gonna have a lot more for you a few months down the line. Although I've got plenty for you already. I mean,
and that's what I was just gonna say. It's not for lack of content, and it's good content. I mean, and anybody these days, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, even what we do, can put out. They could just unload the content. If it's not, but there's no way you're not getting some sort of following. We're talking guests already in 8 days. Carlos Carrera, Adam Wainwright, umpire Ted Barrett, Edwin Diaz, Lindor, Whit Merrifield, Torkelson, Max Muncy, Corbin Burns. Of course, you got Bob Nightingale, Russ Dorsey, Mandy Bell, like different members of the media. Like, it's insane. This entire week alone, I've stopped listening to music while I work out, and it's been Foul Territory. Just because everything has been blowing my mind as far as like how comfortable everybody is talking to you and AJ and Kratzy. It's kind of crazy. And you had said that, you don't want that cookie cutter response. And you said that the questions, they're not softball questions, so to speak. AJ goes right after Carrera. What's up with the ankle? You know what I mean? Who was it? Corbin was just yesterday or earlier today. I was listening.
Let's go. And
arbitration.
We'll talk to him at other times. Of course, we're going to talk to these guys at other times. And we're just jumping into the party. Like Corbin Burns' story was really hot. I want to say 2 weeks ago, maybe even a little more at this point, but we weren't in existence yet. So I just wanted to bring that back and be like, we're not necessarily bringing that up in July. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. And he'd probably be like, all right, enough of that at this point. But it's fresh for us. And we've got a player perspective, including a guy sitting next to me in Przinski, who had been through the ARB process. So to get him one-on-one with Corbin, just that alone, the insight on that is interesting to me. Even though arbitration and parts of it sound confusing and boring to people, when you actually get how the situation works step by step, like you're walking in and you're allowed to talk, then you're allowed to talk. And the insight that they gave us there on how that works, completely unfiltered, what was said. And then even Corbin going back and saying they didn't expect to hear them say, oh, Burns cost them the playoffs, which is it's beyond absurd. It's funny. And I think they're told like, don't laugh and don't interact with them. I would be laughing just because I'm like, that's where we're going. I'd be like, I would go because he's like, we didn't have a rebuttal. My rebuttal would have been, well, you wouldn't exist without me. Just like say something ridiculous that you know is not true. Like your franchise wouldn't exist without me. I built the city of Milwaukee with my bare hands. Like the stuff going on in those arbitration hearings is mind blowing. But anyway, I also do want to say super appreciative that you're listening to all of it right off the jump. And I genuinely am saying this. This is what I have been craving, as I consider myself prime demographic for what baseball would want. Someone who is watching games every night. And I know I just worked in it for the league, so it could be a little different, but watching games every night, on a bet on games every night, hanging out with friends that do the same. Like I'm young, want to go to games, the whole thing, right? Completely absorbed into YouTube and digital and podcast, etc. So if I'm MLB, I'm sitting down with me being like, hey, what do you want? What do you want to hear? And this is it for me. This is the dream.
So what do you think it is? Could it, be the platform? It's just the former players. I mean, you guys are friends. You get a lot of your friends to come on. It just seems like no matter what the question is, the way you guys float it and how comfortable your guests are, it just kind of, going a little bit further than that cookie cutter response. It seems seamless. Like, what do you think contributes to that response?
I think some guys in front of a group of reporters post game, that's a tough spot considering they're just coming off the field and they're around all these people they don't know. So they're with people they know. There's a trust factor per se, but at the same time, and that's what's surprising to people. It's not like these players are trying to hide everything. They're just sometimes in this autopilot mode when you're getting the same questions too. Hey, how's your swing? Hey, and I can say firsthand experience from someone that's been in a ton of big league clubhouses, especially post-game, especially postseason, when you'll get some of the local reporters showing up that haven't been covering the team the whole year. Same exact question you're going to get. Like if I played the drinking game, every single time I'd be wasted in the clubhouse. Hey, how much pressure do you feel in this situation? The same damn question over and over. How much pressure are you feeling? And they're looking for like a very generic soundbite where they go, oh, it's the playoffs, the intensity's up, just like your very basic answers where I don't even hear it. It just like floats right out of my brain. So that's what we're looking for. It exists, and that's what we're trying to produce. And I think these guys also are used to this a lot, where they're calling in from their phones on a FaceTime. They're comfortable in that setting, and they're usually like in a room at the clubhouse or in a room, at their hotel on the road or in their home. And you just talk differently in those settings, which is, I think, the beauty of a podcast too, is that you do get different answers that way. And that's how I think it really blew up, and this was before COVID and all that. And a lot of podcasts would just be done audio. And I've been in the podcast world for a long time. I actually launched my first podcast in 2011 for the Huffington.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
You're the podfather.
2011. How about this squad? Steve Levy, who was like the backup, and I think he started 1 year for Cal, but backup to Aaron Rodgers. and Jordan Schultz, who I got to catch up with Jordy. It's been a minute, but he's great. He covers a lot of NFL insider and NBA insider stuff. And I believe he's still working with ESPN. He's got a big following. So we were working that for the Huffington Post. Then I did one with Kelly Nash that was independent from MLB, but was really cool. And we were just getting different conversations from players, and it was mostly player oriented, where and one of them said, like, it feels like I'm just on a phone call with my family. And I'm like, boom, that's what we want. So this is just evolutions of all of that over time that I've been dying to be a part of.
That's so cool. The first off, like, the episode where you're remoting into Port St. Lucie. First off, I think it's your second episode, which takes guts, right? Third off, I'm watching in real time. I was like, yo, Diaz is right behind him, just sitting there. Like, and they all came up to the camera. Like, you've never seen that before. You've never seen that type of interaction or interviewing that's like on the fly, like people just coming in, and spilling their guts. And Tommy Pham, let us know about that slap. And I don't think any reporter would have ever gotten that type of, I've seen it covered everywhere, and he never explained it that way. And I think it's remarkable.
Yeah, Tommy Pham went viral on day 2 on TikTok, and it was picked up by a ton of publications. I was getting texts right after the show when we went live, and it's day 2. I mean, how many people really even know we exist on day 2? But it started floating around quickly, because you're right. In my mind, and that's where baseball can grab a casual audience as well. This is back to like the reality show part. And we're not trying to make anyone look bad. It's just like that happened, and that happened on the field. And Tommy wants to explain it in his own words around people that he likes talking to. And that's why all of a sudden he gives you another wrinkle of that story that we hadn't heard before. So, and I encourage people, of course, it's all over. I mean, if you Google Tommy Pham and look it up there, or on our YouTube or TikTok's where it really blew up. But the best part was, it was like this organic promo for us, because he cursed like within the first 10 seconds, and he's like, my bad. Because
I saw you put your hands up. You were like,
I go, no. I said, yeah. Tommy, you can curse. It's fine, right? And to me also, there's levels of explicit content, right? There is a level that we don't plan to go to. Of course, player can say whatever he wants, but we're not talking necessarily, like, I'm not trying to ask about guys naked in the clubhouse and girlfriends and DMs and stuff like that. Like, to me, that's my line. I think there's other places out there that cover that and like that. I think most of the players do not want to talk about that. And to me, it's kind of tired. I want to go right before that. I want to go to, hey, you slapped a guy, you got in a fight, whatever it is. Give me the real story. Tell me what that's about. Like, that's okay. Guys are cool sharing those real stories in their own words. And often that includes a cuss or two, and that's fine. That's how the clubhouse is. That's real.
Right. Yeah. And even like, you brought that NFL report card to the show, and like, the way your co-hosts were talking about family being treated, you never think about that. A guy could go 0 for 4 because something's going on with his family that's traveling with the team or not with the team. And, he's still a dad. He's still a family member. And that was cool to see. Like, nobody's really pulled that behind the curtain. No reporter saying like, how's your son? I heard he has a fever.
I'm glad you pointed that out. That was one of my favorite segments, because here's the thing. If I had dinner with Lindor or Correa or Wainwright or Muncy or Burns, to me, these would be the conversations, right? You're getting stories, you're getting insight on how their life is going, and the personal life stuff too. But it's not just sitting down and going, oh, take me through your swing. It's, oh, wait, they don't have daycare for your kids and you're going to games every day. Or one team's got, a terrible spread of food and the other team's feeding the guys well. Those kind of things mixed into the conversation is super cool. So yeah, our guys saw that. They pointed that out. They were like, do you see this NFLPA report card thing? They were like, we would love to talk about that. We don't have that. And we want to talk about who some of the cool teams are with that and who aren't. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. I was like, I've never heard of that before. I'm just trying to bring things that haven't been talked about and should be. It's not like some weird secret, it's just like, hey, which teams are treating players well and have cool perks? Because for the NFLPA, if I said to you, which team scores the best out of player treatment and putting them in a great spot and making them feel really at home and fam. And also keep in mind, even if you're a fan that says, I don't really care about that, well, you should, because that will help performance. There's no way that won't help performance. A player that goes into a place and wants to stay there all the time, it's the same reason why tech companies have the best food in cafeterias. They have nap pods. They have all these things out in Silicon Valley, right? Because they want to keep people there and keep them happy and want them like staying at work as long as they can without overdoing it. Same thing here. And to me, I'm like, oh, cool. The Vikings scored the best. The Wolves are crushing it with that. That was awesome. And I'm like, let's bring that to baseball. How does that look here?
Also, vintage Frazier goes on vacation week 2. We know our guy. He's slippery, man.
Hey, he sends us text, though. He sends us clips on text, which I love. And also, we've got a fam. So these guys, they're also, they made a lot of money. They're rich.
Yeah.
They want to work in certain spots, usually from home. So we just wanted to assemble friends. Hey, friends can meet up so that it's like, oh, Todd's off for the week. We got Kratz and AJ and Adam Jones, who's on with us Friday talking WBC. So you just get that blend going of guys that like each other. And then it doesn't matter. I don't want to say it doesn't matter who's on, because some people want to hear the consistency of a person, but they don't need to be on every day for you to get a lot of great takes from people. Like that shouldn't deter someone just because, like, I'm a huge fan for years of what Pat McAfee does. And he's a freaking bulldog. He works really hard. He's doing a show multiple hours a day, every single day. I mean, he's a unicorn. That's tough to do, and he grinds. So some of the players, even if they only want to work a day or two a week and be in a different location, we shouldn't stop that. If they're a great personality, we should say, hey, how can we make this happen for you?
No, it's great, honestly. And the pictures he shared and the way the guys clowned him a little bit about his glasses, it's great. You could already get that clubhouse feel with foul territory. I want to go into your career from day one. I mean, well, not really day one. We are in Philly, Fox Sports Philadelphia. So I noticed you covered the World Series, and that atmosphere you got to experience in that ballpark. Tell me how that was and your feelings towards Philadelphia fans.
Feelings are really strong. I've been talking about Philly a lot over the past, whatever it's been, 4 or 5 months, because I've been to so much playoff baseball, and I'm super fortunate to do that. I've been to a lot of big games, big moments, World Series, World Baseball Classic, actually, from 2017 was one of my favorite moments ever, especially games to call. So for me, we talked twice at least in the show about Philly and San Diego, because these are, for San Diego, they've never won a World Series, and it was just a group that fan base that hadn't had a lot of winning for a long time. So they're proving that, hey, you spend money and you make it a vibe, and then we're going to fill the place. And we know Philly does that. Philly sports fans are as dedicated as they come. So for them, even though they won not too long ago and they were really good for a nice run with the Utley, Howard, Rollins, etc. days, it felt like it had been 100 years since they had playoff baseball, which is awesome. So you have just a ton of people, and that's why the tickets were hot too, saying, oh, Phillies are back in and I got to be there, right? And not only do they look at, hey, it's been 10 years or whatever it had been, they also look at, hey, we don't know when this will happen again, right? Could die tomorrow or could never make it again, whatever it is, let's make sure we're there, or let's try to be there, or let's be locked in on TV for it. That holiday mentality from Phillies fans is cool. And then the actual scene when I was there, and I was in there for some of the celebrating too with the guys, and they had a really fun bunch. Like they did a nice job of clubhouse mix, different flavors that they brought in. Kyle Schwarber, I'm sure you guys know all about. One of the best. Castellanos is like really fun and interesting. Just cool characters they brought in. Bryce has just continuously been like a leader and super mature with the guys, and just setting a great example too, and also just putting the city at times on his back, right? But the story I like to tell is I remember I was trying to grab food really quick because I had done all my post-game stuff or my pregame work with MLB Network, and then the game's running. And so right before I was on a line for like a Shake Shack or something like that, and I heard like loud screaming, crazy. It might have been the first or the second game there in the playoffs, I want to say. And everyone like looked at the same time. They're like, what happened? And I'm listening to it in my ear too, because I'm watching the game, and I go, oh, that was strike one. And then it happened again, and I'm like, That was strike two. You know, like they're cheering home run style per strike for a good chunk of the game, especially when they were either, you know, early on tied or winning. So if it wasn't a close game, maybe a little different, it dies down. But that's just the amount of intensity that Philly fans had. So a lot of respect.
So we joined Fox Philly in June, right?
Yeah, the beginning of June.
Yeah. Since then, how many teams have been in the championship?
There's been 3 out of 4 professional Philly teams. You've had
The Union,
the Philadelphia Union made it to the championship,
Right.
lost. You had the Phillies made it to the World Series, lost, and then now the Eagles, most recent, made it to the Super Bowl and lost. So we are the good luck charm, bad luck charm of this radio station. And
A lot of people would trade places with you. A lot of fans would trade places with what you just experienced. But yeah, I get it. You want to win, but just going through that entire ride is pretty nice. Yeah, you're quite spoiled and fortunate to have that much success early on. I also will say maybe my biggest bet of the year, or at least one of my biggest, was a futures bet before this season started. And I rarely do futures out in football, say, right? I placed on Eagles a futures to win the Super Bowl before the season started, and it was the only one I placed. And I hedged it a little in the playoffs, so it's not like I lost. I did fine, but still, I still put a lot of marbles into them winning it all, and wasn't super pleased with the result there. And you know, I'm trying to blame the call like many others are, but at the same time, I'm also being reasonable with myself, saying that never should have happened. Like they should have been better in the second half. They should have run the football better, whatever. I don't think we want to go down that path, but even though I'm more a baseball guy, I felt the pain on a small scale with Eagles fans based on it, you know, hurting my wallet.
Now, I want to jump into more of the betting here, because there's been a lot of changes with the MLB. Of course, the pitch clock has been one thing that you've mentioned to pretty much everybody on, and we're eagerly waiting. You know, we see how it's affecting spring training. You know, Mandy Bell, when she was on, she sort of alluded, I think I'm stretching her words a little bit, that the younger pitchers that were kind of in the minor league system have a little bit easier of a time dealing with this now that they're in the majors than maybe some of your seasoned pitchers. Do you think this is something that can really affect not so much an outcome of a game, but as far as Vegas figuring out odds at the beginning of the season and trying to get your bets in? Is it going to be a learning curve for everybody, or is this something that is not going to be impacted at all?
I hope it's a learning curve for Vegas, because that's where we can take advantage, baby.
That's
Let's
right.
go. What that advantage is, we have to see. I do have one of my buddies who I consider somewhat of a sharp. He's already been trying to find out where he thinks Vegas is going to be and early on with rule adjustments and how he can try and capitalize. So I'll keep you guys posted. And we've been chatting, and I'm like, let me know, dude, like on an overall trend, right? Let me know. So he's watching training games.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, we make radio money, which is no money. So
No, I know.
The man sitting across me right now. Mike, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right before COVID, when XFL re-debuted, I guess, jumped on any XFL bet because Vegas had yet to figure out the scoring, the odds, and all that, and made a killing. And then COVID came in and shut it all down.
Yeah, I was out of money quick. Yeah, once COVID hit, for sure.
You were making more money than the XFL at the time, maybe. No offense to the XFL. I don't have a lot to say. I just felt like I needed to throw a joke.
No, that was right there to take it. You guys have a lot of fun on your show. I like AJ's pad. Like, essentially, like, you got souvenirs for days. I saw like he's got a rated R belt, like Edge's belt from WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
sick,
AJ, if you look him up, he did some I guess it was WWE, whatever it was called at the time. Did you know that?
Yeah, he challenged like John Cena, I think, during some sort of morning interview or something. He was in the same place as John Cena with some cameras around, and he challenged them to something.
Yo, but meanwhile, Todd Frazier's the one with the wrestling bobblehead. Like, I don't get it.
Well, they both love it. That's why. I mean,
I know. That's funny.
We're gonna have to bring on some WWE guests or something like that, because those guys will geek out. But yeah, AJ's got a ton of memorabilia in that cave of his, and we continue to renovate it too. It'll keep looking fresher like every couple of weeks. You know, we we've been doing. I've got I think you guys alluded to, we got the plant behind me, but I mean, which is half of a joke, but it's been fun. It's got a mind of its own, and probably will have a name. It'll be like our Wilson for, our Tom Hanks Wilson by the end of the month. But, we've got like this grass patch that's going to have a cool neon sign right behind me. And then it does look kind of like a big league clubhouse. That was kind of the idea there. So that looks really nice. And I think he's got a bar area on the other side that we'll eventually utilize. He's got a projector screen that at some point we'll probably do like breakdowns or have him show videos. So there's a lot of cool things that we can do in there that we've barely tapped into. And then you've seen at least a bit of Todd Frazier's setup. It's ridiculous.
So I saw he had the home run trophy there. He had a couple bobbleheads. He had the wrestling one, so he had that, which was cool.
What are you
but
showing
he did
me
not
right
have. Yo, this is Fly Me to the Moon. Brooklyn Cyclones made it, and then so it's got a helmet, and then when you release it, it's got his head right. It's so funny. I got to get this to him. I don't know if he has it. I got it because I'm from Brooklyn. Corey yells at me every time I tell somebody that.
Scott, every show he's got to mention that he's
well, you're talking to the right guy, because number one, I've still got a spot in Brooklyn too, because they're going to be up and down, because people probably don't realize this yet, but I'm going to be at Frazier's quite a bit. Todd just happens to drop a little Bahamas on us first week, but great. I will be with Frazier a lot too. AJ some of the time. And of course, AJ is a superstar on Fox. I mean, he's there. It's Smoltz and Joe Davis, and then it's AJ and Adam Amin, and that team is dynamite too. So he's on every week for them. So obviously he's going to miss some time, mostly on Fridays. So you'll see me up at Frazier's a lot on over the weekend with him, and sometimes during the week as well. So yeah, that's one of the cooler bobbleheads I've seen. I was a huge collector for years with my dad. Oh, the one other Brooklyn thing too. I called Cyclones games, not only maybe like 5-ish, but if we're talking career, go back maybe 9 years at this point. SNY called me, hey, we love what you're doing on MLB. You want to call some games for us? I'm like, great. Yeah. Mets. They're like, no, Cyclones. I was like, I'm down, right around the corner. I'm in. So, and they would just do like maybe 2 games a year for Cyclones that would go on SNY. And it was awesome. I would be with Bob Ojeda or Nelson Figueroa. And then like a year later, they were like, oh, it's going well. Mets spring training, Mets, with Gary Cohen, the whole thing. So I had a little run until my game schedule with MLB got too crazy, but it was fun.
I like you talking about your setup, whether it's with AJ or Todd. I don't know what you have planned. Can we, I know you said maybe some reviews, some projector stuff. Can we anticipate, please say yes, some sort of Manning cast type where it's you and a couple of the boys watching a game, breaking things down as it happens? I mean, that'd be something.
Absolutely in the plans. I mean, you should hear these guys when games are going on, and it's the same thing. And I've actually been against the grain, and I don't care. For a long time as a game caller, I am not a conventional play-by-play guy. I still give you the calls and go over plays, but I don't resonate with the super traditional way of broadcasting a game. Now, I'm not saying you just chit chat and don't even talk about the game, although on an all cast, there's all kinds of possibilities because someone can always flip away. But I've had a different approach. Some people have loved it. Some people have hated it. I don't care. That's their opinion. It's all good. I just try and kill with kindness anyway, because it's just my style. So yes, to answer your question, we'll definitely get involved with that. And even on the short term, and these guys know, especially for you guys on the betting front, Nerfies, right? No run first inning. We'll mess around with some first innings, go live on Twitter Spaces, little pop-ups like that. Expect them from the guys because they do that anyway. And I just keep asking them, I'm like, can we just talk about this on Twitter Spaces? I'm like, you guys can be in your underwear. It can be 9 p.m. Like, especially on Twitter, like you don't even need to show your the rest of your body, and it doesn't have to be in the studio. We'll just hang out. So yeah, expect plenty of that when we get the regular season flowing.
I want to I want to press you a little bit on you grew up in Jersey. So as far as baseball teams, who did you root for growing up?
Mets growing up. My whole family, well, most of my family's Mets. There's a few mixed in that are Yankees, in the extended family, but big Mets fan. My grandfather, not too long ago passed, was the biggest Mets fan I've ever met in my life. He's in his mid 90s, lived a great life, and watched every game. I'm talking, I remember when I used to live in Florida, after I graduated from Miami in school, and I would be at his spot sometimes. I remember like it was March and it's March Madness, and I'm a fan of other sports too. And I'm at his spot and preparing for work. So I was working mostly for CBS Sports back then. And I go in the other room. He's locked in on Mets spring training. Does not miss a game of Mets spring training. So anyway, yeah, big Mets fan. And we've actually had a big debate about this in the past week, because AJ thinks that like any broadcaster and writer is just like still rooting for their team, and it's just totally not true at all. And that's where we have our debate. Like that's a real debate where, and I'm tight with AJ, so I can do whatever I want and say what I want to him. And I'm like, you are wrong. And Ken Rosenthal, I was like, dunk on him, Ken. Ken went after him too. It was fun because AJ's just like, you cover the team every day, like you're rooting for them. And I said, that's most of the Homer broadcasters. And he played mostly on the White Sox. It was Hawk Harrelson. So I'm like, yeah, Hawk's like the ultimate Homer of all time. And I love Hawk. And that was his style. That's why I don't knock his style. I respect it. I'm just saying, like, that's not how everyone is. You can't throw that blanket over everyone. And not even just Ken. He was like, well, beat writers. I'm like, no, again, not true. I said a beat writer might have just as much action and just as good of a time covering a team that's a total disaster for the year because they're full of storylines. So that stuff's been fun too.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because in that interview with Mandy, he said the same thing, and you got cut off, and then AJ and Mandy started talking, but he had asked, like, are you still, are you a Cleveland person through and through? And she's like, well, I don't really root. And he was like, no, you do. And you said the same thing. You were like, no. And then the conversation went another way. And I wanted that take so bad. I wanted to hear what the rest of what you wanted to say was, because I had a feeling it was that,
I went after him a little, I think, after the meeting or after the interview too, where I said, you're wrong on that. And she was saying the same thing. She's like, I'll tell you who I rooted for growing up. And then he was trying to say, oh, and then you're rooting for Cleveland. She's like, no. So that's why Ken helped out too. I'm like, let's get a few writers on here to make sure they tell you, like, they're not sitting at the game. The whole rule, like no cheering in the press box. Mm-hmm. And it's not as if when they say that, it's not as if everyone in the press box is like, ooh, I really want to celebrate. I can't hold myself back. Like, that's not true. When you go to a game every day, I'm not saying you're jaded. It's just different. And you have a job. Your job is first, depending on what that job is. So, it was a fun debate. And I think the thing is, as much as we're talking about getting this different content out there and getting players to open up more, we're also teaching players sometimes too, right? Like AJ's sitting there telling me, oh, well, I'm a player back when I played, assuming that every writer's in there because they're rooting for our team to win. And I'm like, they might be rooting, like they might be happy for you when you win. That's just a human being. But they're not sitting there going, oh my goodness, I hope that AJ goes 162-0 and the White Sox never lose a game. I'm like, that's just not true.
That's equally not as fun as if they're slumping.
Mundane.
So drama and turmoil as a writer, and I feel the same way as a broadcaster. I don't care who wins. I don't, unless now I'm betting on the games. Yeah. But if I'm good at the games, you can't do that. So I don't care who wins. I really don't. I genuinely mean that. I am not rooting for a team. I am rooting for crazy storylines, narratives, a good game. 10-2 in the second inning with two bad teams. I don't want to say it's not fun, because I actually still have a good time veering in other directions, but it's good to let players know the world revolves around you a lot, but not completely. There are other professions that don't care if you win or lose, respectfully.
You've worked probably in every single ballpark. Which one's your favorite?
I'm a big Camden Yards sucker. That was one of my first ballparks I went to when I was younger. Because how old is Camden Yards? Is Camden Yards like 35 plus at this point, 40 maybe?
It has to be. I mean, we were
around for a minute. Yeah, and if you remember, that was it. Like, even especially in the Northeast, it was like, hey, there's this newish park, but it's got this majestic feel to it. And the backdrop and the food, it was just such a scene. I remember, and I'm in Jersey, New York, so it's not like we went there regularly. I just remember it was one of, everyone always says, like, what's one of your first childhood memories of baseball? And that one stood out. We were going to a Yankees-Orioles game when I was younger. It was my dad and two other, there's so many, whether it was a cousin or uncles, whoever it was with us. It was just like a special experience. And every time I go to Camden Yards, I also have food allergies, which I don't know if we want to even go down that path, but they actually have food for me that I can eat. Surprisingly, it's like Camden Yards. Yeah, Boog's Barbecue takes care of me.
Wow.
With like gluten-free buns, and I can like go pretty all out on like barbecue chicken sandwich and all this kind of stuff and feel like I'm like hanging with the boys, right? Like I'm going with the game, and it's not like, oh, Scott's got to go get like a weak salad or something. Like I can throw down some barbecue. So
I respect that.
Fun. There's others too
respect
on the list, but if I have to pick one, that's the one, because I like, if we're going too far back, like Wrigley and Fenway and all that, and you can go to the more modern ones too, and there's some really cool spots there. But for me, that's like right in the sweet spot of what I'm looking for and sitting back on like pure baseball. And especially with the Orioles being terrible for quite a few years now they're starting to get good again. That's going to be a vibe in Baltimore.
Yeah, we love that ballpark. We had Mike's bachelor party over there. You were almost spot on. It's about a little more than 30 years old, so about 31 years old, Camden Yards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. And listen, I for years I was vegan, and I would go to ballparks, and I can't, just like what you said, trying to find food. You're walking around the terrace forever.
Yeah.
You find one little spot. They don't have half the things you need. So I definitely respect the dietary needs too.
And you can't afford that anymore because the games are going to be way quicker. We joked with Max Muncy, and I don't think I answered your question on this, but we joked with Max Muncy the other day. I mean, he's the one who said it. He's like, because we all know, I mean, the Dodger fans generally, I think, show up later than most fans, and it's not their fault a lot of the time because of the traffic. And then the traffic, even once you get into the entire parking area of Dodger Stadium. I mean, the stadium was built a billion years ago, and that's also one of my favorites, but it's just tough to get to a game on time unless you're really early. And if you're a working human being, like that just might not be possible. But Max was like, fans are going to have to get there earlier, because if Dodger fans show up in the fourth inning and you think you've got 2 hours and change to go, like that fourth inning, that game might be done in an hour. You're going to show up for a Dodger game, and then some relief pitchers come in, and if there's not pitching changes in between, like that game might be done quickly. I mean, we're going to have 2 hour games. We're going to have some games go under 2 hours. I mean, just think about that. And so for betting purposes and just for entertainment purposes, I know you asked me about this. I've been talking about it for a long time. I'm sure you can find clips. It's not like something I've hid behind. The two biggest rules that I've promoted and then seen and then been a huge fan of are when we used to have unlimited timeouts in baseball, where there would be catchers going to their pitcher, and some of it was sign stealing, nervousness, and anxiety over what was going on, which still guys can steal signs from second base, although PitchCom helps that out too. But you would just see, name that catcher, especially the vets, go up to the pitcher, especially in the playoffs, like every other pitch, it felt like at times. And I'm like, enough, like stop. We don't do that in any other sport. Like you're taking advantage. We never used to do that in baseball. I've watched the game for a long time. So it's the same thing with the pitch clock, because with the pitch clock, if you watch a game from 20 plus years ago, or even a little less than that, right? They didn't take that long. And the reason they're taking this long now is because people are just milking the fact, players, that they don't have a clock on them. So eventually you have to reel it in. And the easiest example that makes a ton of sense, I mean, we have a play clock in football and in basketball, because that's what I played. That was my best sport. I remember playing high school basketball. Some of my worst memories were we're down 4 with 2 minutes left, and the game ended. It's not basketball anymore. It's called keep away, because we didn't have a shot clock in Jersey. I don't know if they have one yet, but
no, they don't. Not yet. The high school level.
That's devastating. That's
it's so strange,
because you can do like the handoff and the passing, and then people are just fouling, and then I'm ticked, and I would just be fouling people pretty hard, and you'd lose, and it just wasn't fun, and it's not rewarding the actual skill set. So with baseball, like let's put a clock on it, and it's going to be fine. I mean, the players are already adjusting fine. Sure, there's tweaks that need to be made with the rules, and I think we'll see that. But we want, it's not even just the times, which you're going to see, and I think that does help. I'm not going to beat around the bush there. Like I think you draw in more fans if the game's 2.5 hours, not 3.5. Just like being considerate of people's time when you play a game every single day. But even way more importantly is that we are getting way more action in our time. Like we're not losing any action. There's still the same amount of outs in a game, same amount of strikes and balls that are needed for a strikeout, a walk, whatever. Like none of the components of the game are changing. We are literally just taking the most boring garbage of a game, picking it up and tossing it. And I know that. hundreds of games in my life, right? And I know that the time that we are filling when nothing's happening, some of that's going away, and it's going to be awesome. So people can bet. People are going to be able to watch more games in their entirety. They're going to be more engaged on them. It's a huge win. It's super impactful. Yes, there's going to be issues, and the league's going to have to adjust. So they need to be lockstep with the players about that. But otherwise, big fan.
Awesome.
Yo, I just want to say this because I have to. You mentioned the Padres. That wild card series, they kept stepping out of the box, and the Padres batters, and it was bothering me, and it definitely affected Max. DeGrom won, but they kept doing it, and it was like every other pitch they were doing it. I get it. It was gamemanship or whatever you want to call it, but now they can't do it.
Yeah, but that's crap. Like, enough, and there's stuff going on already in spring training that I'm sure will get figured out, where guys are like trying to kind of freeze a hitter out so that he uses his timeout, and then he steps out, and then he's freaking out when he's back in the box, and they're trying to utilize like the clock almost. Like, I mean, Scherzer was really toying with it because he's going to find.
He loves to do that. He loves to do that.
So good at the gamesmanship. So I watched the start the other day. He's watching it tick down 2-1, then getting in his windup. So there'll be some tweaks based off of that, so that it's not dangerous, because you also saw batters digging into the box, and like they barely lift their head up and the pitch is coming through. And that's always been a rule. You need to make sure that the guy's set. So there's some timing issues that I think might even be, announced in spring training and tweaked. But the overall concept of the rule is awesome, because it's just annoying. Like, enough with the timeouts. We always boo at it at the games. Like the step outs and just the slowness. Like, it just needs to speed up. There's still an unlimited amount of time in the game, right? You can bat around the order and do all of that. It's not like we're completely turning it into this little box of, hey, here's how long a game is going to be. It's just a better product.
Great. I agree. I only have one question left. Well, two actually. But one's the famous question we always ask the guests on our show. It's a hard one, and it's got everything to do with everything, but it's a true judge and measure of a characteristic of yours, the type of person that you really are. And that question is, pancakes or waffles?
Wow. And I'm a huge breakfast person, and I love both deeply. Like, so I get on kicks. Like, I'm a pancake guy for a while, and then I actually just bought a new waffle maker, so I'm a waffle guy. Although I think I've already abused it. So now when I'm thinking about this weekend, because I've been grinding through the week, enjoying it, but I'm thinking about like how I want to treat myself and get after it this weekend, I'm back on the pancake grind. So if I have to pick one, I'll go pancakes.
Okay, pancakes. That was probably the toughest debate. That's the toughest monologue we've witnessed with the pancake or waffle question.
A-Rod was quick.
That was hard hitting for me, and I'm always for it. Like, I'm not going to be political about which one I'm going to pick, and I don't even know if it's really how I feel. But I'm just thinking back also to like, what did I have more growing up? And pancakes were just a little easier than doing. I mean, not necessarily easier, but it was something you could get at the diner and all of that, maybe a little bit easier. So, and I'm a Jersey guy. Diners were king. I just remember like the pancakes and the whipped cream, strawberries, bananas, the whole deal. And I'm starving right now.
Well, before we started, you were like, I'm an open book for like 98%. Imagine if that was the 2%. He's like, don't ask me that.
No, not pancakes or waffles. I'm glad you brought up the
don't go there, guys. No, or I'm never coming on again.
I'm glad you brought the Jersey Diner experience, because anybody listening that has yet to have a New Jersey Diner experience, if you're ever road trip passing through, just stop at any one of them. You'll never be disappointed, ever. Lastly, before we get you out of here, boss told me to ask, I know you said you've been traveling between Florida, Jersey, depending on schedules. If you happen to be up in the New Jersey area around July 17th, am I getting that date correct, Mike?
Yes.
July 17th, there is a Swing It and Ding It fundraising golf outing. Mike and I will have a foursome. There's room for two more. If you want to grab, let's say, Todd, we could put a friendly wager on it and have some fun golfing at the same time. We're definitely open to it. And we just wanted to let you know the boss, Swing It and Dink It is a huge podcast on not only show on Fox Sports The Gambler, but it's in the podcast world and iHeart and all that. But if you guys are around, we will challenge you to a duel, so to speak, and we'll put some money on it. You know, based off
July
of percentages off what
like
you
a
guys make.
Monday?
What's that?
July 17th, like a Monday?
Yeah, it's a Monday. They go
Oh.
hard. Yeah, you can't do it. You got the
Monday.
show, right?
That's
So
Yeah, he's gonna have a show.
unfortunately, I mean, I would say pretty high chance I won't be up there. I
That's
would be in
okay.
Florida mostly during the early part of the week. I will be in Orlando, just knowing what my schedule is. It's also super far out. Like when is All-Star? All-Star's the week after. So
That's true. We'll take it as a forfeit. It's all right. We know you don't want anything to do with
but
us.
wait, there's one other component here is I do not play golf.
Ah,
I mean, I mean, I don't understand for somebody that's worked in baseball for basically my entire adult life, and I'm talking like around the clock. I mean, if you followed my MLB and NHL network days, like there were many days where I'd get up, I would go in and host a hockey show, then I would host a baseball show, then I would hit a flight to my next game of the week. So spring and summer was like kind of a wash, and so it's only nice out in the Northeast for what, like 4-ish months. So then now you're down to like the inside stuff and the simulators and whatever. So I'm just like, I'm like, I don't have time to do it during this time period. I can't do it during the other time period. So just never rolled with it. So not, and I would say it's hurt me. It's hurt a lot of times the invites from really cool people being like, yo, let's go hit it. Let's go do 18. And I'm like, yeah, I don't play. Like I could run out there and mess around, but like, I don't want to, I mean, and I've, gone to a driving range, but I don't want to say a pride factor, but I'm like, I don't want to go with like some baseball players that are like scratch golfers or close to it. And then be like, oh, I've basically never played in my life. I'd rather just be chilling in the golf cart, like boozing and hanging out with the guys.
That's what our
that I would do. And then you don't even need to fill up the foursome. I'll just be hanging out, or maybe not boozing too hard if I'm driving the golf cart. But anyway, yeah, I have not picked it up yet. Good news, just partially moved to Florida. So stay tuned.
yeah.
Just be careful when you do pick it up, because it doesn't stop, and your quest for perfection is never, you're never going to succeed. It's
that's why I haven't done it. My dad, other family members very into it. My dad picked it up for a little and then was like, nah, too frustrating, and he dropped it. So I kind of looked at him and was like, he's like one of the happiest, chillest guys I know. So I'm just gonna follow his lead on this one, because it's not like it's doing much for me aside from some cool hangouts, but I can figure out other ways. I do like to hit a party, a bar, that kind of stuff. So I'll be like, no for golf, yes for drinks afterward.
even better. Maybe Toddy Frazier can schedule that beer pong tournament sometime whenever's available.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scott Braun, we really appreciate you coming on. We look forward to Monday to Friday, Just for Foul Territory. You guys find it right on YouTube. Scott, thank you so much, buddy.
Appreciate you guys. Yeah. And thank you for listening. Like OG fans, a lot of respect for that. So enjoyed the combo, and thanks for listening to all the episodes. And if you got feedback, you don't like something, we're here for it, because I mean, it's called Foul Territory for a reason. Like, not many rules. We do what we want. So appreciate you guys.